नमस्ते एवरीवन। और आज के ऑडिट एंड अश्योरेंस हिंदी सेशन में आप सबका स्वागत है। अभी डे 1 में हमने सीखा था इंट्रोडक्शन एंड हाउ टू एक्सेस द स्टडी हब। डे 2 में हमने सीखा ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स ऑडिट रिस्क्स एंड द ऑडिटर्स रिस्पॉन्स। डे 3 में हमने सीखा डेफिशिएंसीज, कंट्रोल्स एंड टेस्ट ऑफ कंट्रोल्स। टुडे इज़ डे 4। डे 4 में हम पढ़ने वाले हैं अबाउट वेरियस ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स। सो और टाइम वेस्ट करने से पहले लेट्स स्टार्ट ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स। नाउ व्हाट आर ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स? ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स आर कंडक्टेड टू कंफर्म अ फैक्ट। ओके, तो अगर मुझे कोई फैक्ट्स कंफर्म करने हैं रिगार्डिंग the inspection of an item, observation of certain things in the company, about inquiry, about external confirmation, recalculation, reperformance and analytical procedures। अगर मुझे ये फैक्ट्स को कंफर्म करना है तो मैं कंडक्ट करूँगी ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स। ओके, सो ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स आर कंडक्टेड टू कंफर्म फैक्ट्स। तो पहले तो अगर मुझे फैक्ट्स कंफर्म करने हैं, इफ़ द फैक्ट्स आर रिलायबल और नो, तो पहले तो मैं इंस्पेक्शन ऑफ डॉक्यूमेंट्स एंड रिकॉर्ड्स करूँगी टू मेक श्योर दैट माई डॉक्यूमेंट्स आर प्रॉपर। फिर मैं करूँगी इंस्पेक्शन ऑफ टैंजिबल एसेट्स। इससे मुझे पता चलेगा कि मेरे पास सच में टैंजिबल एसेट्स है या नहीं। अभी ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स कौन कंडक्ट करता है? ऑडिटर कंडक्ट करता है। बट ऑब्वियस क्यों कंडक्ट करता है ऑडिटर? क्योंकि द ऑडिटर is an independent person, the auditor is an independent party. So when the auditor comes into the company to audit the company to confirm certain facts, जो भी ऑडिटर को बोलेगा इन द कंपनी कि हमारे पास इतना एसेट्स है, हमारे पास इतना लाइबिलिटीज़ है, ऑडिटर उसको सब सुनेगा नहीं। ऑडिटर अपना खुद का रिसर्च करेगा टू कंफर्म कि जो मैनेजमेंट बोल रहा है वो सही बोल रहा है कि नहीं। तो ऑडिटर अपना खुद का रिसर्च करेगा, तो वो रिसर्च इज़ ऑडिट प्रोसीजर, जो ऑडिटर खुद का रिसर्च करेगा टू कंफर्म फैक्ट्स। तो पहले तो अगर कंपनी बोलती है कि मेरे पास इतना है, ये वो है, ये है, वो है, तो द ऑडिटर विल फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इंस्पेक्ट डॉक्यूमेंट्स एंड रिकॉर्ड्स टू मेक श्योर कि जो कंपनी बोल रही है वो सच में है कि नहीं। देन द ऑडिटर विल डू इंस्पेक्शन ऑफ टैंजिबल एसेट। मतलब टैंजिबल एसेट मतलब विच यू कैन सी, like plant and machinery and all of that. So the auditor will inspect the tangible asset to make sure कि अगर कंपनी बोल रही है कि मेरे पास एसेट है वर्थ ₹1 करोड़, तो सच में है या नहीं, या फिर ऐसे ही बोल रही है कंपनी। देन द ऑडिटर विल कंफर्म सर्टन फैक्ट्स, एक्सटर्नल कन्फर्मेशंस। फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर कंपनी ने एक लोन लेके रखा है तो कंपनी तो कुछ भी बोल सकती है कि मेरे ऊपर इतना लोन है, मेरे ऊपर ये है, वो है। ऑडिटर विल नॉट बिलीव द कंपनी। द ऑडिटर विल गो टू द बैंक एंड गेट एन एक्सटर्नल कन्फर्मेशन कि सच में कंपनी ने लोन रखा है कि नहीं। तो वो हो गया एक्सटर्नल कन्फर्मेशन। देन कंप्यूटर असिस्टेड ऑडिटिंग टेक्निक, दैट इज़ कैट। तो इसमें क्या करेंगे? व्हाट विल द ऑडिटर डू इन दिस? The auditor will use the computer-assisted auditing techniques to audit the company and find out things. Okay, they will use CAT to audit the company and find out about various things. Okay, next we have is observation of process or procedure being performed by others. अभी एक कंपनी में there are various employees working, various employees are doing their various things. Yes, कोई तो ये एक प्रोसीजर कर रहा है, कोई कुछ और काम कर रहा है। ऑडिटर को चाहिए दैट एवरीबडी इज़ डूइंग देयर जॉब अप्रोप्रिएटली एंड एवरीबडी इज़ फॉलोइंग द रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ डूइंग देयर जॉब अप्रोप्रिएटली। तो ये कंफर्म करने के लिए ऑडिटर क्या करेगा? ऑब्जर्व करेगा। ऑडिटर विल ऑब्जर्व द प्रोसेस और प्रोसीजर्स बीइंग परफॉर्म बाय अदर्स टू मेक श्योर दैट दे आर अकॉर्डिंग टू द स्टैंडर्ड्स। क्योंकि हमारे पास एक बेंचमार्क है, we have to follow that standards while we are doing the process and procedures in the company. तो auditor क्या करेगा? Auditor will observe this process and ensure that this process or procedures being performed by others are according to the standards. Then the next, what the auditor will do? Recalculation. The auditor will recalculate manually or electronically, that is to ensure arithmetic accuracy. अगर कंपनी बोलती है कि I have 5% of sales returns, तो the auditor will manually or electronically calculate the same and make sure कि जो कंपनी बोल रही है that is arithmetically accurate. कंपनी कोई मिस्टेक तो नहीं कर रही, right? And then last, re-performance by the auditor of controls originally performed as a part of the entity's internal control system. So the auditor will re-perform certain parts by the auditor to confirm that they were performed as a part of the entity's internal control system. अभी ये जो मैंने दिखाए हैं अभी स्क्रीन पे, these are generalized audit procedures. General, okay, मतलब in general auditor क्या करता है, ये सब करता है. Now, there are specific audit procedures. Say for example, audit procedures for cash and bank, audit procedures for non-current liabilities, audit procedures for non-current assets, audit procedures for inventory, audit procedures for receivables, audit procedures for payables, audit procedures for prepayments. इन सब के लिए अलग अलग प्रोसीजर्स हैं. अभी एग्ज़ाम में कुछ भी वो लोग पूछ सकते हैं. आप स्टैंडर्ड 10-15 प्रोसीजर्स बाय हार्ट कर सकते हो, लाइक ये कॉमन वाले आप बाय हार्ट कर सकते हो, कैश एंड बैंक कर सकते हो, रिसीवेबल्स एंड प्रीपेमेंट्स कर सकते हो, नॉन करंट लाइबिलिटीज़ कर सकते हो, नॉन करंट एसेट्स कर सकते हो. ये सब आप ऐसे 10-15 बाय हार्ट कर सकते हो. बट इमेजिन एग्ज़ाम में अगर ऐसा कोई प्रोसीजर पूछा अबाउट अ कमोडिटी जिसके बारे में आपने पढ़ा नहीं है, आपको कोई आइडिया नहीं है, तब आप क्या करोगे? ये जनरल ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स है, उसको एज अ बेस लेके आप अपने खुद के प्रोसीजर्स डिज़ाइन करोगे. सो दीज आर द बेस प्रोसीजर्स. ये बेस प्रोसीजर्स को आप एक बेस रख के आप अपने खुद के प्रोसीजर्स डिज़ाइन करेंगे. ओके, डिपेंडिंग ऑन व्हाट द सिचुएशन इज आस्किंग यू टू डू. Now the first one I have is audit procedures on bank and cash. अगर मुझे कैश एंड बैंक पे ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स परफॉर्म करने हैं तो मैं कौन से करूँगा? द फर्स्ट थिंग इज़ आई विल एग्री द कैश बुक बैलेंस टू फिनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. अभी फिनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट में असेट साइड में कैश एंड बैंक का फिगर होता है, दैट फिगर शुड बी टेकन फ्रॉम द कैश बुक. तो जब आप ये फिगर यहाँ से कॉपी करके बैलेंस शीट में लिखते हो तो आपको नहीं करना है कोई मिस्टेक, एंड दैट इज़ व्हाट द ऑडिटर विल चेक कि आपने कॉपी करते समय कोई मिस्टेक तो नहीं किया. So they agree the cash book figure to financial statements to ensure accuracy, to make sure that it is accurate. Next, obtain a bank confirmation letter from the company's bankers. अभी कंपनी बोलेगा कि I have taken a loan, I pay interest every time, और कंपनी बोलेगी कि मेरे बैंक में पता है 1 crore रुपीज़ है. You will not trust the company. If you really want to ensure कि कंपनी के पास इतना पैसा है या फिर क्या लोन है क्या नहीं है, you will go to the third party. Third party is the bank. और आप बैंक से एक confirmation letter लोगे कि yes ये कंपनी के पास इतना इतना पैसा है, इतना इतना उनका लोन है. This is known as external confirmation. So you will obtain a bank confirmation letter from the company's bankers to ensure the existence of that much balance, completeness of that much balance, value of that balance, and rights and obligations of that balance. Then next you will do is agree balance as per the company bank statement to original year-end bank statement and also to bank confirmation letter. अभी कैश का बैलेंस तो हमको मिल गया, सिमिलरली बैंक का बैलेंस, whatever is there in the bank, that balance only should be recorded in the books of accounts. Okay, so again for accuracy, trace all of the outstanding lodgements to the pre-year-end cash book and post-year-end bank statement. तो अगर आपका कोई अमाउंट आउटस्टैंडिंग है, अगर आपने अभी तक पे नहीं किया है, तो एग्री इट बैक टू द प्री ईयर एंड कैश बुक अगर आपने वो लास्ट ईयर पे किया है, या फिर पोस्ट ईयर एंड बैंक स्टेटमेंट अगर आपने ये फ्यूचर में पे किया है. सो ये आउटस्टैंडिंग पेमेंट्स मैं एग्री करूँगी. नेक्स्ट, ऑब्टेन बैंक reconciliation and cast to ensure arithmetical accuracy. तो बैंक reconciliation क्या होता है? To ensure that the balance as per the company and the balance as per the bank is the same. So I will calculate and I will make sure that the balance as per the bank and the balance as per the company is the same, and that will give me an idea of arithmetic accuracy. So समझा आपने? इसको बेस लेके I designed my own procedures for cash and bank. Similarly आपको भी करना है. आपको वो कॉमन प्रोसीजर्स को बेस लेके अपने खुद के प्रोसीजर्स डिज़ाइन करने हैं. ओके, नेक्स्ट वी हैव इज ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स ऑन नॉन करंट लाइबिलिटीज़. अभी नॉन करंट लाइबिलिटीज़ मतलब क्या? जो आपको पे करना है बट नॉट विद इन 1 ईयर. अगर इफ़ यू हैव टू पे इट विद इन 1 ईयर इट बिकम्स अ करंट लाइबिलिटी. नॉन करंट मतलब क्या? यू हैव टू पे इट लेटर आफ्टर 1 ईयर. ओके, तो उसके लिए आप क्या करोगे? ऑब्टेन अ ब्रेकडाउन ऑफ ऑल लोन्स आउटस्टैंडिंग एट द ईयर एंड, कास्ट टू वेरीफाई एरिथमेटिकल एक्यूरेसी एंड अग्री द टोटल टू द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. सो नॉन करंट लाइबिलिटीज़ में जो अमाउंट पेएबल होता है वो आएगा. तो अगर आपने कोई लोन लिया है तो वो लोन का जो इंटरेस्ट एंड द अमाउंट है वो पेएबल होगा. बट ये लोन में से वट एवर पेमेंट इज़ विद इन 1 ईयर वो करंट लाइबिलिटी में जाएगा, एंड वट एवर पेमेंट इज़ आफ्टर 1 ईयर वो नॉन करंट में जाएगा. तो पहले तो आपको लोन को ब्रेक डाउन करना पड़ेगा टू वॉट इज़ आउटस्टैंडिंग एट द ईयर एंड, सो इट विल गो इन करंट, एंड वॉट इज़ आउटस्टैंडिंग आफ्टर द ईयर एंड इट विल गो टू नॉन करंट, एंड एग्री दैट यही कैलकुलेशन कंपनी ने किया है एंड टेकन टू द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट एंड क्लासिफाइड बिटवीन करंट एंड नॉन करंट लाइबिलिटी. So basically you have to check that whatever figure the company has put in the non-current liabilities is correct. Then next, agree the balance outstanding to the bank confirmation letter. अभी बैंक के पास से हमको confirmation letter लाना पड़ेगा, external confirmation कि yes, company has taken a loan worth rupees 2 crores from me, and out of the 2 crores they have already paid 50 lakhs. So 1 crore 50 lakhs is something which is outstanding. तो ये बैलेंस आउटस्टैंडिंग है वो नॉन करंट लाइबिलिटीज़ में दिखना चाहिए. तो दे विल एग्री द बैलेंस आउटस्टैंडिंग टू द बैंक कन्फर्मेशन लेटर. सो बेसिकली दे विल नॉट ट्रस्ट द कंपनी बट दे विल गेट एन एक्सटर्नल कन्फर्मेशन because the auditor has to do his bit. The auditor is an independent party and auditor को अपना काम करना ही पड़ेगा. कितनी भी कंपनी उसके दोस्त हो या फिर कुछ भी हो, बट दे हैव टू हैव दिस एक्सटर्नल कन्फर्मेशन. ओके, देन नेक्स्ट, इंस्पेक्ट बैंक कन्फर्मेशन लेटर फॉर एनी लोन्स लिस्टेड दैट हैव नॉट बीन इंक्लूडेड इन द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. फिर से बैंक से और भी इंफॉर्मेशन ले लो कि इसके अलावा कोई और लोन है क्या जो कंपनी ने डिस्क्लोज नहीं किया है in the balance sheet. Sometimes companies tend to hide loans because they want to show a very good picture कि हमारा कंपनी बहुत अच्छा कर रहा है and all of that, and because of that they don't want to show कि we are facing financial difficulties. So that you can get information only when you ask the banks. तो बैंक से पूछो और कोई लोन है क्या जिसके बारे में कंपनीज ने हमको नहीं बताया है. ओके, सो दैट इज़ वन मोर थिंग. Recalculate the split between current and non-current liabilities. As I told you, whatever is payable within 1 year is current and whatever is payable after 1 year is non-current. So you have to recalculate the split between current and non-current liabilities. नेक्स्ट हमको क्या करना है? ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स ऑन नॉन करंट एसेट्स. अभी नॉन करंट एसेट्स में क्या ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स हैं? नॉन करंट एसेट्स मतलब क्या? लॉन्ग टर्म एसेट्स, येस, प्लांट एंड मशीनरी एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. सो ऑब्टेन द नॉन करंट एसेट्स रजिस्टर, कास्ट एंड एग्री द टोटल्स टू द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. ये नॉन करंट एसेट्स का जो टोटल है दैट शुड बी टेकन टू द बैलेंस शीट. तो एग्री, कास्ट द नॉन करंट एसेट्स रजिस्टर एंड मेक श्योर कि उसी का टोटल गया है टू द फिनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स. ओके, देन नेक्स्ट, कास्ट द नॉन करंट एसेट्स रजिस्टर टोटल्स एंड सब टोटल्स टू एंश्योर arithmetic accuracy. Then confirm the non-current assets registers का total and subtotal. Check the total and subtotal again. Sometimes totaling mistake होता है, तो you can check it manually or you can check it on the using the computer assisted techniques. Okay, तो वो check it and पहले confirm करो कि ये जो total company ने बताया है वो total सही है कि नहीं. Okay, it's like ensuring arithmetical accuracy. Then next, select a sample of assets from non-current assets register and physically inspect them. Now this is a very good idea. कंपनी बोलेगा हमारे पास इतना assets है उतना assets है, तो वो जो records है उसमें से randomly एक asset को select करो, कंपनी के गोडाउन में जाओ और देखो कि that asset is actually existing or not. आप उल्टा भी कर सकते हो, पहले जाओ कंपनी में उनके warehouse में एक asset को देखो और फिर उसको ढूंढो in the records. So you will get an idea that the records are a true representation of how many assets the company is owning currently. And then inspect assets for the condition and signs of impairment. If there are any signs of impairment, मतलब कि हमको write off करना है उसको, अगर asset पुराना हो गया है या फिर anything like that. Then assets are revalued every year. मतलब उनका वैल्यू कम या फिर ज़्यादा होता है डिपेंडिंग ऑन द मार्केट रेट. तो इफ़ एन एसेट इज़ रीवैल्यूड, तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इंस्पेक्ट द वैल्यूअर्स रिपोर्ट, क्योंकि ऐसा कोई भी बंदा आके रीवैल्यू नहीं कर सकता. आई कैन नॉट कम एंड से दैट टुडे आई एम रीवैल्यूइंग माई हाउस. इट हैज़ टू बी यूजिंग द प्रॉपर मेथोडोलॉजी. तो पहले तो अगर मैंने एक एसेट को रीवैल्यू किया है तो ऑडिटर को ऑब्वियसली लगेगा दैट आई हैव रीवैल्यूड इट टू काइंड ऑफ सेव टैक्स और समथिंग लाइक दैट. सो व्हाट द ऑडिटर विल डू फर्स्ट इज द ऑडिटर विल इंस्पेक्ट द वैल्यूअर्स रिपोर्ट टू एंश्योर एंड टू अंडरस्टैंड अगर सच में वैल्यूएशन हुआ है या फिर दिस इज़ अ ट्रिक बाय द कंपनी. ओके, सो ही विल इंस्पेक्ट द वैल्यूअर्स रिपोर्ट and agree the stated amount to the general ledger and the financial statements. So these two things the auditor will do in terms of a revalued asset. पहले तो valuer का report देखेगी and then agree the stated amount to the general ledger and financial statements. Okay. Next we have is additions. Now in terms of additions, select a sample of additions and agree the cost to supplier invoice for valuation. During the year अगर मैंने अपनी मशीनरी में थोड़ा एडिशन किया है, कुछ नया लिया है, सो कंपनी तो कुछ भी बोलेगा कि आई इन्वेस्टेड 1 crore ईयर, आई टुक दिस मशीन दैट मशीन. एज एन ऑडिटर यू विल नॉट लिसन टू दैट. सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू विल सिलेक्ट अ सैम्पल ऑफ दैट एडिशन एंड यू विल कंपेयर द कॉस्ट विद द बिल, बिकॉज अगर आपने कुछ नया लिया है तो आपको तो उसका बिल मिला ही होगा. सो सिलेक्ट अ सैम्पल ऑफ एडिशंस and agree the cost to the supplier invoice. Then next, obtain the list of additions and inspect the descriptions to confirm they relate to capital expenditure items rather than repairs and maintenance. कभी कभी कंपनी ने नया नहीं खरीदा होता है, they are just replacing and repairing the existing part. So the companies need to understand that repairs and maintenance is different and buying a new part of the plant is different. So obtain a list of additions and inspect the descriptions कि वो repairs है या वो capital expenditure है. Okay, so that is non-current assets for revalued assets and additions. अभी जैसे ही हम लोग additions करते हैं हम disposals भी करते हैं. जो plant हमको नहीं चाहिए होता है so we dispose it off. Yes. So obtain a breakdown of disposals, cast the asset and agree the assets removed from the non-current assets register. पहले तो disposal का breakdown देखो, cast the total and agree कि जो जितना भी आपने बेचा है क्या उतने अमाउंट का ही आपने बैलेंस शीट में से सब्ट्रैक्ट किया है, बिकॉज यू हैव टू सब्ट्रैक्ट द डिस्पोजल्स फ्रॉम द असेट्स. सो फर्स्ट एग्री कि कितने का आपने बेचा है, हाउ मच मनी का यू हैव डिस्पोज्ड, एंड एंश्योर कि उतने का ही आपने सब्ट्रैक्ट किया है फ्रॉम द नॉन करंट एसेट्स. देन सिलेक्ट अ सैम्पल ऑफ डिस्पोजल्स, agree sales proceeds to supporting documentation. अगर मैंने सेल किया है तो मैनेजमेंट कुछ भी बोलेगा कि मैंने ये बेचा वो बेचा, पर जो भी बेचा उसका पैसा भी आया होगा एंड उसका आपने इनवॉइस भी दिया होगा. यस. सो इंस्पेक्ट दैट एंड मेक श्योर कि सच में मैनेजमेंट ने बेचा है या मैनेजमेंट ऐसे ही कुछ भी बोल रहा है. ओके. एंड यू कैन ऑल्सो इंस्पेक्ट द बैंक स्टेटमेंट्स टू एंश्योर दैट द मनी हैज़ कम इन, because when you sell a product you get the money, right? And then finally when you sell an asset, it's a sale, right? सेल में से ईदर प्रॉफिट हो सकता है या फिर लॉस हो सकता है. यस. सो मे बी यू आर एट अ प्रॉफिट और मे बी यू आर एट अ लॉस. सो recalculate profit or loss on disposal and agree to statement of P&L. Recalculate P&L on disposal and agree to statement of P&L. Okay. So that is regarding disposal. So that is non-current assets audit procedure. पहले तो non-current assets, फिर revaluation, फिर additions and फिर disposals. Then अगर हमारे पास non-current asset है तो हम तो उसको depreciate करने ही वाले हैं, because that's a rule, every year you have to depreciate. अभी ऑडिट प्रोसीजर्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ नॉन करंट एसेट्स का डेप्रीसिएशन. अभी आप क्या करोगे एज अ ऑडिटर? हाउ विल यू एंश्योर दैट द कंपनी इज रियली डेप्रीशिएटिंग द नॉन करंट एसेट? सो इंस्पेक्ट द कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर बजट फॉर द नेक्स्ट फ्यू ईयर्स टू असेस द यूजफुल लाइफ इन द लाइट ऑफ प्लान्स टू रिप्लेस द एसेट. पहले तो हमको नहीं पता कि कंपनी is planning to use the asset for a long term or what, or is the company planning to sell it currently. तो वो हमको we are not having an idea. So for that we have to inspect the capital expenditure budget. In the budget उनका realistic view रहता है regarding the future, whether they are planning to sell it in the future or they are planning to use it for the foreseeable future. So इससे हमको पता चलेगा कि कंपनी का प्लान क्या है. Is the company's plan to sell off the asset, or is the company's plan to to use the asset for a foreseeable future? तो ये कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर का बजट देख के हमको मालूम पड़ेगा. Then recalculate the depreciation charge for a sample of assets to verify arithmetical accuracy. तो जो भी depreciation charge है उसको sample of assets में अप्लाई करके recalculate करो, जस्ट टू मेक श्योर कि कंपनी ने डेप्रीसिएशन राइटफुली कैलकुलेट किया है. व्हाट इज़ द कंपनीज वे ऑफ कैलकुलेटिंग द डेप्रीसिएशन? बिकॉज समटाइम्स द कंपनीज कैन डू सम काइंड ऑफ झोल एंड नॉट रिकॉर्ड द करेक्ट अमाउंट. तो दैट ऑल्सो वी हैव टू एंश्योर, एंड वी कैन एंश्योर दिस ओनली बाय रिकैलकुलेशन. Then inspect the depreciation charge and policies in draft financial statement and compare it to the prior year to ensure consistency. अभी depreciation policy एक ऐसा policy है which you cannot change every year. It has to be constant over the years. Okay, like last year जो मैंने depreciation straight line basis या फिर reducing balance method या फिर जो भी follow किया था, that has to be consistent. So you cannot change it. Therefore, you have to compare this year's depreciation policy with last year's depreciation policy to ensure that there is a consistency in application of depreciation policy. You have consistently applied the depreciation policy. Now, audit procedures on intangible non-current assets. What are intangible non-current assets? Tangible non-current assets means something that you can see, touch. Yes. Intangible matlab we cannot see and touch them, but they have immense value. Like you can say patents, trademarks, copyrights, license and development cost. उनको हम देख नहीं सकते, हम लाइसेंस को देख नहीं सकते, but it gives us a right to sell a product. हम पेटेंट को देख नहीं सकते, but patent protects our product from getting copied in the future. So all these are examples of intangible non-current asset. So what will you do in intangible non-current asset audit? Obtain a breakdown of cost capitalized, cast for mathematical accuracy and agree the amount included in the financial statement. पहले तो अगर मैं कोई भी पेटेंट financial statement में include करती हूँ आई विल इंश्योर कि उसका जो रियल कॉस्ट है उस पर ही मैं रिकॉर्ड करूँ, उससे ना ज़्यादा ना कम. तो सबसे पहले मैं वो चेक करूँगी. आई विल ब्रेक डाउन द कॉस्ट कैपिटलाइज्ड, cast it for mathematical accuracy and make sure that whatever is the amount that I'm getting, that itself is the amount which has to be included in the financial statements. Then for a sample of cost, agree to invoices or timesheets. Inspect board minutes for any discussions relating to the intended sale or use of the asset. अभी बोर्ड में डिस्कशन तो होता होगा कि अगर इफ़ आई एम परचेसिंग दिस पर्टिकुलर इंटेंजिबल एसेट लाइक ट्रेडमार्क, पेटेंट, ये वो, तो उसका इंटेंडेड यूज़ क्या होने वाला है. कैन एवरीबडी यूज़ इट और कैन ओनली सम पीपल यूज़ इट. तो दैट आई विल अंडरस्टैंड व्हेन आई इंस्पेक्ट द बोर्ड मीटिंग्स फॉर एनी डिस्कशंस. Then as I told you, the other intangible assets are patents, copyrights and trademarks. So inspect purchase documentation for purchased intangible asset for existence, rights and obligations. पहले तो I will inspect the purchase documentation to make sure that I have really purchased intangible asset or is the company only faking it. तो मैं क्या करूँगी, कंपनी मुझे बोलेगा कि मैंने लाइसेंस लिया है 10 करोड़ का, मैंने पेटेंट करवाया है अपने प्रोडक्ट्स फॉर 2 crores. So the company might say absolutely anything. I need to make sure that this is the truth. So I will inspect the purchase documentation and I will ensure and make sure कि company ने सच में उतना intangible asset खरीदा है. Then next, inspect specialist valuation report and agree to the amount included in general ledger and the financial statement. So I will inspect a specialist valuation report and agree the amount included in general ledger and financial statements. Okay. Now as you know, the tangible assets are depreciated. In the same way, intangible assets are amortized. That means their value reduces over time. So if I want to amortize the intangible asset, मैं पहले क्या करूँगी, आई विल इंस्पेक्ट द बजट्स एंड फोरकास्ट फॉर द नेक्स्ट फ्यू ईयर्स टू असर्टेन जिस पीरियड पे मुझे अमोटाइज करना है, जैसे कि डेप्रीसिएशन. इफ़ आई वांट टू डेप्रीशिएट इट फॉर अ पीरियड ऑफ 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, I will understand it only when I see the budget or forecast for the new for the next few years to ascertain कि मुझे ये प्रोडक्ट का बेनिफिट, इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट कितने सालों तक मिलने वाला है. If I'm going to get benefit of a license for 10 years, then I will amortize it for a period of 10 years. Then recalculate the amortization charge to verify arithmetic accuracy. For example, the company has used a method and calculated amortization of 2,50,553 for a particular patent. And company ने मुझे बोला कि हाँ देखो मैंने ऐसे ऐसे calculate किया है. I will recalculate for a sample of intangible assets and see कि the company's basis for calculation सही है या गलत है. So I will recalculate it for a sample of things and I will see if it is accurate. अभी लाइसेंस और ये सब होता है, दे कम विद अ लाइसेंस एग्रीमेंट टू कन्फर्म द पीरियड कि कितने पीरियड के लिए ये लाइसेंस इज़ वैलिड. सो वेन एवर आई बाय अ लाइसेंस आई नो दैट दिस लाइसेंस इज़ वैलिड फॉर 5 years और आई नो दिस लाइसेंस इज़ वैलिड फॉर 8 years. सो उतने ईयर्स के लिए मैं वो अमोटाइज करूँगी. सो फॉर दैट रीज़न I will inspect the license agreement to confirm that the amortization period corresponds to the license period. Okay. Then one more example of intangible asset is what? Goodwill. Yes. Agree the consideration to sales agreement by inspection. अभी पहले तो गुडविल का पहले तो एग्री करना पड़ेगा कि ये जो अमाउंट है वो करेक्ट है जो मैंने रिकॉर्ड किया है इन द बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स. फिर वेन एवर आई वॉन्ट टू वैल्यू गुडविल, नॉर्मली वी हायर एन एक्सपर्ट फॉर वैल्यूएशन ऑफ गुडविल. सो कंसिडर वेदर एक्सपर्ट वैल्यूएशन इज रीजनेबल बाय ऑब्टेनिंग एन एक्सपर्ट रिपोर्ट. एंड देन एक बार कैलकुलेशन हो गया तो अगेन इट्स द सेम फॉर ऑल दैट यू हैव टू रिकैलकुलेट एंड सी to ensure arithmetic accuracy. Now, can you see a similarity in points of recalculation or verification or completeness, or these points are repeated? Okay. Now, audit procedures for inventory. अभी inventory मतलब क्या? Stock. Okay, give me 2 minutes. Okay. So inventory. What is inventory? Stock. Okay. So what can be the audit procedures to keep a check on the stock? पहले तो ये स्टॉक को हमको काउंट करना पड़ेगा. For counting there are instructions that every counter has to follow. The management will give instructions कि अगर ये स्टॉक है तो उसको ऐसे काउंट करना है, उसको वैसे काउंट करना है, ऑल दैट. एंड ये जो काउंटर्स हैं उनको ये इंस्ट्रक्शंस फॉलो करने पड़ेंगे प्रोसीजर वाइज. तो पहले तो द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट मी एज एन ऑडिटर विल डू इज़ आई विल इवेल्युएट द मैनेजमेंट्स इंस्ट्रक्शंस एंड प्रोसीजर्स फॉर द इन्वेंट्री काउंट. मैं तो पहले मैनेजमेंट के इंस्ट्रक्शंस देखूंगी कि मैनेजमेंट ने क्या इंस्ट्रक्शंस दिए हैं रिगार्डिंग द इन्वेंट्री काउंट एंड मैनेजमेंट्स प्रोसीजर्स फॉर द इन्वेंट्री काउंट. फिर मैं ऑब्जर्व करूँगी द परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ द काउंट वेयर आई विल कन्फर्म इफ दे आर फॉलोइंग द प्रोसीजर्स ऑन. Okay, next inspect the inventory. So next what I will do is I will myself go and inspect the inventory because management तो कुछ भी बोल सकता है कि हमारे पास ये है वो है. I will myself go and inspect the inventory and perform a few test counts. Now before the count मैं क्या करूँगी as an auditor? मैनेजमेंट ने इंस्ट्रक्शंस दिए हैं, सो आई विल कॉन्टैक्ट द क्लाइंट एंड आई विल ऑब्टेन अ कॉपी ऑफ इन्वेंट्री काउंट इंस्ट्रक्शंस की मैनेजमेंट में क्या इंस्ट्रक्शंस दिए हैं. देन आफ्टर द इंस्ट्रक्शंस आई विल इंस्पेक्ट द प्रायर योर वर्किंग पेपर्स. प्रायर योर वर्किंग पेपर्स में क्या होगा, लास्ट ईयर काम कैसे किया था. तो आई विल इंस्पेक्ट द प्रायर योर वर्किंग पेपर्स टू अंडरस्टैंड द इन्वेंट्री काउंट प्रोसेस and identify any issues that need to be taken into account this year. मतलब लास्ट ईयर में अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम्स थी जो मुझे ये साल सॉल्व करने हैं, तो आई विल कंसिडर दैट एंड आई विल बुक एन ऑडिट स्टाफ टू अटेंड इन्वेंट्री काउंट. क्योंकि अगर एक ऑडिटर वहाँ पे रहेगा विद इन ऑल द प्रोसेस, तो इफ देयर आर एनी डिस्क्रिपेंसीज तो ही कैन ऑब्जर्व इट क्विकली. ओके, देन ड्यूरिंग काउंट आप क्या करोगे, आप ये जो इन्वेंट्री काउंट शीट्स है जिस पे पीपल आर काउंटिंग, द काउंटर्स आर काउंटिंग, यू विल ऑब्टेन कॉपीज ऑफ दैट शीट्स. आप उसके टोटल करोगे एंड यू विल सी इफ द टोटल इज द एग्जैक्ट टोटल दैट इज इंक्लूडेड इन द बैलेंस शीट. While counting, ideally the total of that sheet should be in the balance sheet. So you will also make sure that the total of that sheet is a part of the balance sheet. Then one simple thing you can do is you have the count sheets. वो शीट्स में से रैंडमली एक आइटम को सिलेक्ट करो ऑफ इन्वेंट्री, गो इन द गो डाउन एंड ट्रेस इट टू द फिजिकल इन्वेंट्री, सो दैट आपको पता चलेगा कि शीट पे रियल इन्वेंट्री इज काउंटेड एंड यू कैन ऑल्सो डू वाइस वर्सा. अभी आफ्टर काउंट आप क्या करोगे, यू विल कास्ट द इन्वेंट्री लिस्ट टू इंश्योर अरिथमेटिकल एक्यूरेसी एंड एग्री द टोटल्स टू FS डिस्क्लोजर. मतलब ये इन्वेंट्री के जो सब काउंटिंग है ये सबका टोटल करके मुझे बैलेंस शीट में लिखना है. सो आई विल मेक श्योर दैट इट इज़ डन. देन आई विल इंस्पेक्ट परचेज इनवॉइसेस फॉर अ सैम्पल ऑफ इन्वेंट्री आइटम्स टू एग्री टू देयर कॉस्ट. At what cost will the inventory be included? At their cost or NRV, whichever is less. So unless and until the inventory is new, cost or inventory, whichever is less according to IS2 is always cost. So for the cost, I will look at the bills because bill पे cost रहता है. And for sample of inventory, I'll check if the inventory items is recorded at cost. Then next, audit procedures for receivables and prepayments. उसमें मैं क्या करूँगी, obtain an aged receivable listing, cast it and agree the total to the financial statement for accuracy and presentation. तो पहले तो मैं पुराने सब रिसीवेबल्स को टुगेदर करके एंड करंट ऑल रिसीवेबल्स टुगेदर आई विल ऐड and I will make sure that that is the amount that is included in the financial statement. Then I will agree the receivable ledger control account with the receivable ledger list of balances for completeness and existence. So again, receivable control account में जो balance है is that the same balance that is included in the financial statement. Then I will select a sample of year-end receivable balances and agree to the supporting documentation. Receivables है मतलब क्या, मैंने गुड्स बेचा है और मुझे पैसा इज़ येट टू कम. सो आई विल हैव अ सपोर्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंटेशन कि मैंने गुड्स बेचा है, तो मेरे पास बिल होगा एंड मुझे अभी तक पैसा आया नहीं है. And that's it regarding the procedures. In 5 minutes, we'll begin with the question from the study hub. So let's practice it from the study hub. The first we'll do is Jasmine Company. So read the requirement first. Same rule applies. You have to read the requirement first and then read the question. So what is the requirement? Describe substantive procedures the auditor should perform to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence in relation to Jasmine Company's trade receivables. Describe substantive procedures the auditor should perform to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence in relation to Jasmine Company's bank balances. And describe the audit procedures the auditor should perform in assessing whether or not Jasmine Company is a going concern. And D, discuss the issue. The issue is given here. This is the issue. So discuss the issue and describe the impact on the auditor's report of Jasmine Company of adequate and inadequate going concern disclosure. Okay, so Jasmine Company. It is 1 July 20x5. Jasmine Company manufactures motor vehicles, components, and its year end was 30th April 20x5. You are an audit supervisor of Peppermint and Company, and the final audit is due to commence shortly. Total assets are $43.2 million and profit before tax is $7.2 million. The following matters have been brought to your attention. The first matter is regarding trade receivables. Jasmine Company's trade receivables are comprised of a large number of customers in previous years. The audit team has undertaken a positive trade receivable circularization to confirm year-end balances. However, the customer response rate has historically been low, and so alternative audit procedures have been undertaken. A decision has been made that for the current year audit, a circularization will not be performed. The year-end trade receivable balance is $3.9 million. Last year it was $2.8 million, and the allowance for trade receivable is $410,000. Last year it was $3 lakh. Then regarding bank balances, the bank and cash figure included in Jasmine Company's draft financial statement is comprised of a number of bank account balances, an overdraft of $5.1 million, which is company's main current account, and $0.2 million relating to several saving accounts. The finance director has informed the audit manager that all accounts have been reconciled as at the year end. The overdraft of $5.1 million has increased significantly since the prior year. In 20x4 it was $1.2 million and now it is $5.1, so it is more than 2 times. The directors have informed you that the overdraft facility which the company requires in order to operate on a daily basis is due for renewal in August 20x5 and that they are confident it will be renewed. So first, audit procedures, substantive procedures the auditor should perform to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence in relation to Jasmine Company's trade receivables. Then substantive procedures the auditor should perform to obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence in relation to Jasmine Company's bank balance. Describe the audit procedures the auditor should perform in assessing whether or not it's a going concern, and then the matter. So let's see what the issue is. During the final audit, the finance director has informed the audit team that Jasmine Company's bankers will not make a decision on the renewal of the overdraft facility until after the auditor's report is signed. The audit engagement partner is satisfied that the use of the going concern basis is appropriate. The directors have agreed to include some brief going concern disclosures in the draft financial statements, and the audit team still have to assess the adequacy of these disclosures. So now let's plan the answer. First is on trade receivables. So for that, read trade receivable once. Till then, I will quickly check the comments if we have any. Okay. but I will check the comments. So it is for 5 marks. So you have to write 5 good points or 7 okayish good points. So can we plan the answer? This is regarding trade receivables. Now in the receivables, whatever point we have studied, that same points will come. So the first one is obtain the aged receivable listing and agree to the balance on the trade receivable account and trial balance. To make sure that that is the amount that is included of the trade receivable account, is that the same account that is included in the trial balance. Then next, if there are any slow moving or old inventory items, then if there are any slow moving or old trade receivables, very old, so are we going to receive the payment for the same or should we declare them as bad debts? Okay, so review the aged list of customer balances to identify any slow moving balances. Then discuss the status of these balances, if we are going to receive it or not. So discuss the status of these balances with the credit controller. Discuss the status of these balances with the credit controller. To assess whether they are likely to pay. Okay. Then next, a lot of times we feel that we are going to receive 1 lakh from Mr. A, but Mr. A doesn't agree to that because he feels that the amount is less than that. This is known as arguments. I feel that he's going to pay me 1 lakh, but he's saying I'm not going to pay you 1 lakh, I'll just pay 50,000. So that is arguments. So that is known as balance in dispute. So review customer correspondence to identify any balances which are in dispute or unlikely to be paid and discuss with the management. Okay, then if we want to know what is the board's discussion regarding the receivables, how will we know? We cannot be a part of the board meeting because only directors can be a part of the board meeting. But we can remember one thing, that whatever is discussed in the board meeting is recorded in the minutes of the meeting. So what we can do is review the board minutes to identify whether there are any significant concerns in relation to payments by customers. One, two, three, four. Okay. Then we calculate the receivable collection period. Yes, there is a formula which I had showed you in the revision. So you can calculate the receivable collection period and compare it with the prior year to see are you heading forward or behind. So calculate the average receivable collection period and compare this with prior year to investigate any significant differences. Okay, then what else we can do? We've already had allowance of a particular item, but if we inspect the post-year and cash sales, and if we think that more allowance for receivables is required, then that also we can do. So inspect post-year and sales return and credit notes and consider whether an additional allowance against receivable is required. Okay, so that completes your trade receivable part. What is the B part? Bank balances. So regarding bank balances, before that just read through the bank balances. So if you see that the overdraft has increased a lot, it's increased significantly. Yes, more than 4 times. So write about bank balances now. First of all, you have to get in terms of bank balance an external confirmation from the bank कि सच में मेरा उतना पैसा है बैंक में. So first point is obtain a bank confirmation letter from Jasmine Company's bankers for all of its accounts. Then agree the balance, or rather you can say agree all accounts listed on the bank confirmation letter to the company's bank reconciliation or trial balance or general ledger to ensure completeness of bank balances. Okay, and then during the year, if there are any additions, then obtain and cast it to ensure arithmetic accuracy. So that is your next point. For the current account, obtain Jasmine company's bank reconciliation and cast to check the additions to ensure arithmetical accuracy. Okay, then next, whatever balance is there as per the reconciliation, it should be the same balance that is there in the original year-end bank statement, and it should be the same balance that is there in the bank confirmation letter. That will give you an idea of accuracy. So next, agree the balance for the bank reconciliation to an original year-end bank statement and bank confirmation letter. Then there might be any old unrepresented checks. A lot of times you get a check and you forget to deposit it, so it becomes expired. So for that, examine any old unpresented checks to assess whether they need to be written back as they are no longer valid to be presented. Then any reconciling item, if it's there, agree it to the supporting documentation, because for every item there has to be a supporting documentation that gives you a proof that okay, this thing is there and existing in the business. So for the saving bank accounts, Review any reconciling items. On the year-end. Bank reconciliations. And agree to supporting documentation. Okay. Then describe the audit procedures the auditor should perform in assessing whether or not the company is a going concern. Now, to assess whether the company is a going concern or not, you have to make sure that you have enough cash flows, so you're safe, you don't have a lot of overdraft, you don't have a lot of risk, your gearing is managed, your suppliers and your customers are there, they're buying goods from you and all these things. So let's write about that. Going concern procedures. So to write about this, you have to generally read the entire question because there's no separate paragraph given about the same. So you have to derive it on the basis of trade receivable and bank balance given, and based on that you have to write. For example, the overdraft has increased a lot, it's 4 times. So that is going to give you a problem. Yes, so your going concern will be affected because of that, like that. Okay, so let's write about it. Obtain the company's cash flow forecast and review the cash inflows and outflows and assess the assumptions for reasonableness and discuss the findings with management to understand if the company has sufficient cash or no. So to understand if the company will have sufficient cash. You know what is sensitivity analysis? How sensitive your company is to changes, how easily you can get affected. So you have to perform sensitivity analysis. On the cash flows to understand the MOS. What is MOS? Margin of safety. The company has in terms of net cash inflow and outflow. Okay. Then you also need to know what is the management's plan for the future actions in terms of financing, in terms of generating revenue. How is the company planning to be at the top? Maximum revenue is something that needs to be a goal of every company. So evaluate management's plans for future actions, including their contingency plans in relation to ongoing financing and plans for generating revenue and consider the feasibility of these plans. Okay, then next, now in the question that we did yesterday, we had a point wherein the bank loan had minimum covenants, loan covenants, and if that is breached, the loan becomes instantly repayable. So are there any such covenants that if breached, you have to repay it, and if you don't have money to repay it, you have to sell off your property and repay it? So that is going to affect your going concern. So is there anything like that? So review any arrangements with the bank to determine whether any covenants have been breached, especially in relation to the overdraft. Okay, then if there is any legal case on you and you lose that case, still you have to pay certain amount. So then confirm from the company's lawyers if there is any litigation on the company, and if what can be the outcome of the litigation. So, and that you have to do with the client's permission. Without the client's permission, you cannot contact the client's lawyers. So with the client's permission, inquire of the lawyers of Jasmine Company as to the existence of any litigation and if so, the likely outcome of any litigation. And then what else? You can also read the board minutes. If there is any cash deficiency or if there is any cash problem, definitely the board is going to discuss about the same. So is there any discussion about the same? Yes. So review the post year-end board minutes. Year-end board minutes to identify any other issues which might indicate further financial difficulties for the company. Okay, so these are the going concern procedures. What is the next that we have? Discuss the issue and describe the impact on the auditor's report of Jasmine Company and adequate and inadequate going concern disclosure. So first you have to discuss the issue, and if you make an adequate disclosure, then what? If you don't make an adequate disclosure, then what? So for that we have to make sure if the matter, like how are you going to work on that matter. So this D part is more on the chapter reporting, okay, audit reporting. So during the final audit, the finance director has informed the audit team that Jasmine Company's bankers will not make a decision on the renewal of the overdraft facility until after the auditor's report is signed. The audit engagement partner is satisfied that the use of the going concern basis is appropriate. The directors have agreed to include some brief going concern disclosures in the draft financial statement, and the audit team still have to access the adequacy of these disclosures. So first of all, discuss the issue. The issue, and as I told you, this chapter is, so this part is related to the auditor's report. How will it affect the auditor's report if the disclosure is adequate, and what happens if the disclosure is not adequate? So first, as the outcome, regarding the negotiations for the overdraft facility, renewal will not be known at the time of signing the auditor's report. There is a material uncertainty which may cast significant doubt on the company's ability to continue as a going concern. The impact, now we have to discuss the impact on the auditor's report. So the impact on the auditor's report depends on whether its uncertainty is deemed to be adequately disclosed in the financial statements. Okay, so if the disclosure is adequate, then what? And if the disclosure is not adequate, then what? So the first one is disclosure adequate. So then what? If the disclosures are adequate, then the auditor's report will need to include a material uncertainty related to going concern section. That is, if the disclosures are adequate, then you put a material uncertainty related to going concern section. What will be included in this section? The section will state that the audit opinion is not modified. Indicate that there is a material uncertainty and will cross-reference to the disclosure note made by the management. Okay. Now, once you have given the opinion, you also have to write a basis for that opinion in the basis for opinion paragraph. So, it would be included after the opinion and basis for opinion paragraph. Okay, because it's a disclosure. Then next we have is if the disclosure is inadequate. So disclosure inadequate. Then what? If the disclosure made by the management are not adequate, the audit opinion will need to be modified as there is a material misstatement relating to inadequate disclosure. If it is not disclosed, then the matter is material. But is it material and pervasive or material and not pervasive? Definitely material and not pervasive, because it affects only that area of the business. The remaining area of the business is perfect. So, the failure to adequately disclose is likely to be material but not pervasive. Due to the ongoing nature of negotiations and so a qualified opinion will be issued. Okay, then qualified opinion means what? Except for opinion. So the opinion para will state that except for the failure to adequately disclose the uncertainty, the financial statements give a true and fair view. Okay, and it will also consist a basis for opinion paragraph. So The report will contain a basis for opinion paragraph subsequent to the opinion explaining that a material uncertainty exists and that the financial statements do not adequately disclose this matter. So that comes to the end of this particular question. When you confirm it, this is your answer that you have written, and this is your standard answer. So you can always compare with your standard answer and see where you stand. Now, one more important thing is, when you're watching the revision, don't just sit and nicely relax and watch it. You have to solve it on your ACCA study hub. You feel when you see it and when you're just dreaming and looking at it, you feel, yeah, I will also be able to write it. Yeah, I will also be able to write it. But when you actually start writing it, is when you understand what you're lacking. तभी आपको सच में पता चलेगा कि सच में लिखने में या फिर सिर्फ सोचने में कि मुझे आता है उसमें कितना फ़र्क है. जब आप सच में एक क्वेश्चन पिक करोगे, अभी ये क्वेश्चन तो आपका हो गया, ओके, डन प्रैक्टिसिंग. देन अगेन गो बैक टू द प्रैक्टिस एंड पिक अ रैंडम क्वेश्चन एंड सी आप अगर होते ये एग्ज़ाम में होता और ये रियल एग्ज़ाम होती तो आप कैसे सॉल्व करोगे. फिर यू राइट द आंसर एंड देन यू सबमिट इट, देन यू गेट द राइट आंसर. तो ऐसे होता है, ऐसा नहीं है कि हाँ मैं देख रही हूँ रिविज़न, हाँ मुझे भी आएगा करना. जब आप सच में करोगे ना तो आपको सच्चाई पता चलेगी. सो दैट इज़ वॉट आई वॉन्ट यू गाइज टू डू. Okay, now I'm giving you a break of 5 minutes and then we'll do the next question. So the next question that we're going to do is this. First, reading the requirement like we always do. Describe substantive procedures the auditor should perform to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence in relation to the valuation of Hyacinth Company's inventory. Describe substantive procedures the auditor should perform to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence in relation to Hyacinth Company's research and development expenditure. Then, describe substantive procedures the auditor should perform to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence in relation to Hyacinth Company's year-end sales tax liability. D. Explain whether 20x5 financial statement of Hyacinth require amendment in relation to flood, and describe audit procedures which should be performed in order to form a conclusion on any required amendment. So Hyacinth and Company, it is 1 July 20x5. Hyacinth Company develops and manufactures computer components, and its year end was 30th April 20x5. The company has a large factory and 2 warehouses, one of which is off-site. You are an audit supervisor of Tulip and Company, and the final audit is due to commence shortly. Draft financial statements show total assets of $23.2 million and profit before tax of $6.4 million. The following 3 matters have been brought to your attention. The first is the inventory valuation matter. Your firm attended the year-end inventory count for Hyacinth Company and confirmed that the controls and processes for recording work in progress and finished goods were acceptable. Work in progress and finished goods are both material to the financial statements, and the audit team was able to confirm both the quality and stage of completion of work in progress. Before goods are dispatched, they are inspected by the company's quality control department. Just prior to the inventory count, it was noted that a batch of product line Crocus, which had been produced to meet a customer's specific technical requirements, did not meet the customer's quality and technical standards. This inventory had a production cost of $450,000. Upon discussion with the project supervisor, the finance director believes that the inventory can still be sold to alternative customers at a discounted price of $90,000. Research and development. Hyacinth Company includes expenditure incurred in developing new products within intangible assets once the recognition criteria under IAS 38 intangible assets have been met. Intangible assets are amortized on a straight line basis over 4 years once production commences. The amortization policy is based on past experience of the likely useful lives of the products. The opening balance of intangible assets is $1.9 million. In the current year, Hyacinth Company spent $0.8 million developing 3 new products, which are all at different stages of development. Sales tax liability. Hyacinth Company is required by the relevant tax authority in the country in which it operates to charge sales tax at 15% on all products which it sells. The sales tax is payable to the tax authority when purchasing raw materials and incurring expenses in the manufacturing process. The company pays 15% sales tax on its items purchased, and this can be reclaimed for the tax authority. The company is required to report the taxes charged and incurred by completing a tax return on a quarterly basis, and the net amount owing to the tax authority must be remitted within 4 weeks of the quarter end. The financial statements contains a $1.1 million liability for sales tax for the quarter ended 30th April 20x5. and the issue. The audit is now almost complete and the auditor's report is due to be signed shortly. The following matter has been brought to your attention. On 3rd June 2005, a flood occurred at the offsite warehouse. This resulted in some damage to inventory and property, plant and equipment. However, there have been no significant delays to customer deliveries or complaints from customers. Hyacinth Company's management has investigated the cause of the flooding and believes that the company is unlikely to be able to claim on the insurance. The finance director of Hyacinth Company has estimated the value of damaged inventory and property, plant and equipment was $0.7 million and that it now has no scrap value. So, can we start planning the answer? The A part. Substantive procedures on valuation of inventory. So, substantive procedures on inventory valuation. Okay. So this part, you read it once again. Read it in your mind once again so that we can start writing the answer shortly. I got a lot of requests from students on my Instagram saying that we really loved the revision. It was, really effective. बहुत अच्छा था. So guys, I would want you to watch even tomorrow's mock because mock is equally important. It will be like a complete paper. अभी वो time frame में हम कितना complete कर पाएंगे वो तो मुझे पता नहीं. जितना हो सके हम solve करेंगे. हमारे पास 3 घंटे है 2:30 to 5:30. उसमें जितना हम कर सके उतना हम mock solve करेंगे. ओके. So let's do it. The first point. Obtain a breakdown of work in progress. And agree a sample of work in progress assessed during the inventory count to the work in progress schedule agreeing the percentage completion to that recorded at the inventory count. Okay, then next, how many marks you have to write? 6 marks. Whatever cost I have included in the purchase of the inventory, is it the real cost? So I have to compare it to the invoice. So for a sample of inventory items, obtain the relevant cost sheets and agree the raw material cost to recent purchase invoices labor costs to timesheets or payroll records. And confirm overheads allocated are of a production related nature. Then for inventory, ascertain if any write down of inventory is required. That means you have overstated the inventory, but now according to IS2, the lower of cost in NRV is the NRV because the inventory has now become obsolete. So examine post year end credit notes to determine whether there have been returns which signify that a write down is required. Okay, then if you want to really ascertain and find out if according to IS2 what is less, cost or NRV, then what you will do, you will select a sample of year-end finished goods and compare cost with post year-end sales. To ascertain if net realizable value is above cost or if an adjustment is required. Okay, the next discuss the basis of work in progress valuation with management and assess its reasonableness. Okay, then if there are any slow moving items in the inventory that need to be written down, yes, they need to be written off. So that is one there. And so review aged inventory reports and identify any slow moving goods. Discuss with management why these items have not been written down or if allowance is required. Okay, that becomes the first category. Then next is substantive procedures on research and development expenditure. So second one is research and development. Okay. So read research and development once. Okay, so the first point is always cast a schedule. So obtain and cast a schedule of intangible assets agree the closing balances to the general ledger to the trial balance and draft financial statements. Then you can discuss with the finance director the rationale for using 4 years useful life. So discuss with the finance director for using four-year useful life and consider reasonableness. Okay, then there's a new computer software, so you discuss it that at what stage of development it is. So accordingly we can class it as a research or development. So for 3 new computing softwares software projects, discuss with management the details of each project along with the stage of development and whether it has been capitalized or expensed. Okay, then next, out of this, the ones you have categorized as research, agree the cost incurred to the invoices. So for those, expensed as research, agree the cost incurred to invoices and supporting documentation. And inclusion in profit or loss. And this is for 4 marks. So I'll write one more. You can review the market research reports to see the future economic benefits that will arise. Yes, so review. Research reports to confirm Hyacinth company has the ability to sell the product once complete and उससे जो आपको फ़ायदा होगा and probable future economic benefits that will arise. Okay, then we see substantive procedures in terms of year-end sales tax liability. So please read through that. Again, for 4 marks, so you can write 5 points. sales tax liability. So the first one, again agree the year-end sales tax liability in the trial balance to the tax return submitted to the tax authority and cast the return. That is confirm that it is correct. Okay, this is the first thing. Then second, agree the quarterly sales tax charged equates of the last quarter sales as per the detailed sales day listing. Then next, recalculate the amount payable to the tax authority as being sales tax charged less sales tax incurred. Then fourth point, you have to compare this year's tax with the last year. So compare the year-end sales tax liability to the prior year-end balance or budget and investigate any significant differences. Four are done, one more. Then review any disclosures made of the sales tax liability to ensure that it is shown as current liability and assess the disclosures are in compliance with accounting standards and legislation. Okay, that is the sales tax liability. And then the very important part of flood. Now flood has happened after the reporting date, so it is a subsequent event. It's a subsequent non-adjusting event because it's a natural calamity that is offered, which that has occurred, which had nothing in existence at the reporting date. But if this non-adjusting event is material, then disclosure is required. So let's see if it is material. So subsequent event. So first of all, a flood has occurred at the off-site warehouse and property, plant and equipment and inventory valued at $0.7 million have been damaged and now have no scrap value. The directors believe in short, do not believe they are likely to be able to claim on the company's insurance for damaged assets. The event has occurred after the reporting date. After the reporting date and is not an event having conditions existing at the reporting date. Okay, so it becomes what? A non-adjusting event. So now this non-adjusting event, you have to check the materiality of the event. If the event is material, then it needs to be disclosed. So the damage is how much? 0.7 million, and you have to check materiality in terms of its percentage of profit before tax and total assets. So total assets is 23.2 and profit before tax is 6.4. Okay, so the materiality the damaged asset of $0.7 million is 0.7 divided by 6.4. So that is how much? It's 10.9% of profit before tax and 0.7 divided by 23. Percent of total assets. So it's material. As material non-adjusting event, the assets do not need to be written down to zero in the financial statements. So now this is a material event, so the directors should consider including a disclosure note detailing the flood and the value of assets impacted. Then what procedures should be followed? You have to write only 4 because it's for 3 marks. So first of all, obtain a schedule always, that's the first procedure. Obtain a schedule showing the damaged property damaged PPE and agree the net book value to the non-current asset register to confirm the total value of affected assets. Then review the condition of other PPE and inventory and confirm all the damaged assets identified. And then is the damaged item having a 0 scrap value? So review the damaged property and inventory and discuss with management the basis for 0 scrap value assessment. And now discuss with the management if they will disclose the effect of flood as a non-adjusting event in the financial statement. So discuss with management whether they will disclose the effect of the flood as a non-adjusting event in the year-end financial statements. Okay, so these are the procedures. Once you confirm the answer, you get your answer, that is the answer you have written, and the standard answer. So you can always compare, and the standard answer are obviously going to have more points. There's no doubt regarding that. But you will write according to your watch and according to the marks, because the main aim here is to complete the paper, right? तो हमको वो ज़्यादा सोचना है. तो compare it, and I hope this is clear, guys. I hope आपने आज का lecture enjoy किया. So जो ऑल 3 कैटेगरीज थे जिसके क्वेश्चन एग्ज़ाम में 100% आते हैं वो तीनों हमने कवर कर लिया। अभी कल के क्लास में हम लोग एक मॉक सॉल्व करने वाले हैं, द पास्ट पेपर मॉक। तो बी देयर सेम टाइम, ओके। थैंक यू सो मच गाइज, थैंक्स फॉर अटेंडिंग द लेक्चर।